The music of Latin America. Our objectives is to know the characteristic of Latin American musics and their instruments. Second is to recognize the traditional instruments used in Latin American music. Third is to understand the cultural influence of Latin American music. Fourth is to appreciate the uniqueness and beauty of Latin American music and their instruments. The music of Latin America is a product of three major influences: indigenous, Spanish, Portuguese, and African. It is also referred to as Latin music because of the impact of the countries colonized by Spain and Portugal, spanning the following areas: Andean region, a mountain system of western South America along the Pacific coast from Venezuela to Tierra del Fuego. Argentina, Bolivia, Chile, Ecuador, Peru, and Venezuela. Central America, Belize, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Panama. Caribbean, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Guadeloupe, Haiti, Martinique, and Puerto Rico. Lastly, the Brazil.
At the same time, because of interracial relation and migration, the above-named countries also came to be populated by five major ancestral groups as follows: Indian descendants of the original native inhabitants of the region before the arrival of the colonizer, African descendants from Western and Central Africa, European descendants of colonizer, mainly from Spain and Portugal but also those of French, Dutch, Italian, and British traders, Asian descendants of migrants from China, Japan, India, and Indonesia or Java, mixed descendants from the above-named groups. Influence of Latin American music. Indigenous Latin American music. Before the arrival of the Spanish, Portuguese, and other European colonizers, the natives were found to be using local drum and percussion instruments such as guiro, open-ended hollow gourd with parallel notches cut in one side, maracas, a gourd-shaped rattle fade with seeds or pebbles and used often in a pair as a rhyme instrument, and turtle shells wind instrument like the zampona, panpipe, and quena, notches, and flute were traditionally made out of aquatic canes.
Plus, materials for making indigenous instruments range from hollow tree trunks, animal skins, fruit shells, dry seeds, cane, clay, and hardwood trees to jaguar claws, animal and human bones, and especially wreathed inflated eyes of tigers. Here are the example music of the instruments.
The indigenous music of Latin America was largely functional in nature, being used for religious worship and ceremonies. The use of instruments, as well as singing and dancing, served to implore the gods for a good harvest or victory in battle, to guard against sickness and natural disasters, and of course, to provide recreation. Afro-Latin American music. The African influence on Latin American music is most pronounced in its rich and varied rhythmic, patterns produced by drums and various percussion instruments. Complex layering of rhythmic patterns was a favorite device, where fast-paced rhythms appealed to the rhythms of dancing feet. Dance became an essential musical expression, with music meant for dancing of high density. Vocal music was often deep-chested, while instrumental music greatly relied on rhythmic effects of buzzers to produce rich sound and occasional loud volume levels for added density. Euro-Latin American music. The different regions of Latin America adopted various characteristics from their European colonizers. Melodies of the Renaissance were used in southern Chile and the Colombian Pacific coast, while stepwise melodies were preferred in heavily Hispanic and Moorish influenced areas of Valenzuela and Colombia. Alternating dual methods such as 3 and 6 influence areas of Valenzuela and Colombia. A dance known as fandango, found in Chile and adopted in Cuba and Puerto Rico, was immortalized in the song I Wanna Be in America from Leonard Bernstein. Broadway hit West Side Story. Other European influences were seen in the textures of Euro-Latin American music, from unaccompanied vocal solos to those accompanied by string instruments. Mixed American music. The diversity of races and cultures from Native Americans, Afro-Latin Americans, and Euro-Latin Americans account for the rich combinations of musical elements. This music fusion, combining native instruments with European counterparts and musical theories, further enriched by the instruments brought by the African slaves. The distinctive influence of African chanting also led to the improvisation of other musics and dance forms such as the Afro-Cuban rumba, the Jamaican reggae, the Colombian cumbia, and the Brazilian samba.
Popular Latin American music. It is further enriched by the instruments brought by the African slaves. The distinctive influence of African chanting also led to the improvisation of other music and dance forms such as the Afro-Cuban rumba and the Jamaican reggae, the Colombian cumbia, and the Brazilian samba. Samba. The samba is a dance form of African origin which evolved into an African-Brazilian favorite in dancing using sets and slums districts of Rio de Janeiro. Its lively rhythm consists of a meter that is danced as 3 steps per measure, thus creating a feeling of 2x4 meter time. It was meant to be executed for singing, dancing, and parading in the Rio Carnival. Samba has several variations so that there is no clear-cut definition of a single samba form. Its most adventurous kind is known as the batucada, referring to a large percussion ensemble set up to bateria. Players do an intensely polyrhythmic style of drumming. Son. The son is a fusion of the popular music or canción song of Spain and the African rumba rhythms of Bantu origin. Originating in Cuba, it is usually played with tres or guitar, contrabass, bongos, maracas, and claves, or 2 wooden sticks that are hit together. Although the son is seldom heard today, it continues to influence present-day Latin American music, particularly as the foundation of the salsa. Salsa. The salsa is a social dance with marked influences from Cuba and Puerto Rico that started in New York in the mid-1970s. Its style contains elements from the swing dance and hustle as well as the complex Afro-Cuban and Afro-Caribbean dance forms of pachanga and guaguanco. The execution of the salsa involves shifting the weight by stepping sideways, causing the hips to move while the upper body remains level. The arms and shoulders are also incorporated with the upper body position. A moderate tempo is used throughout while the upper and lower body act in seemingly disjunct as described above.
Music instruments of Latin America. The varied cultures that developed in Latin America gave rise to different types of wind and percussion instruments. As with the African continent, Latin America's rich history, dating back thousands of years to the Aztec, Mayan, and other ancient cultures groups, understandably generated diverse creative approaches to making music. Aztec and Mayan instruments. In Central America, the ancient civilizations of Aztec and Mayan people used various instruments mainly for religious functions, and these were usually played by professional musicians. As some instruments were considered holy and it was further believed that music could summon deities, mistakes in playing these instruments were considered offensive and insulting to them. Among these ancient instruments are the following. Talapit Zali. The Talapit Zali is a flute variety from the Aztec culture, made of clay with decorations of abstract designs or images of their deities. Teponazli. The teponazli is a Mexican slit drum hollowed out and carved from a piece of hardwood. It is then decorated with designs in relief or carved to represent human figures or animals to be used for both religious and recreational purposes.
Concha. The concha is a wind instrument usually made from the shell of a large sea snail. It is prepared by cutting a hole in the shell's spine near the apex, then blown into as if it were a trumpet. Rasp. The rasp is a hand percussion instrument whose sound is produced by scraping a stick or similar object that has a series of indentations or notches with another stick, creating rattling effects.
Uyuwital. The Uyuwital is an upright tubular drum used by the Aztecs and other ancient civilizations. It is made of wood, open at the bottom and standing on three legs cut from the base. Its top membrane of stretched animal skin is beaten by the hand or a wooden mallet. What is whistles? Whistles are instruments that are made of natural elements such as bone from animals. The eagle bone whistle is the most common. It produces a series of high-pitched notes which are similar to cry of an eagle. Whistles can produce a wide variety of notes by varying the airflow and pressure. In some areas, whistles are only used in ceremonies to call the spirits.
Incan musical instruments. Among the Incas of South America, two instrumental varieties were most common.
Ocarina. The ocarina is an ancient basil flute made of clay or ceramic with 4 to 12 fingers holes and a mouthpiece that projects from the body. What is zamponias, or what we call panpipes, are ancient instruments from the Andes mountain of South America. They typically feature bamboo tubes of different lengths tied together either in pairs or more to produce graduated pitches of sound. They are played by blowing over the top of the tubes in the same way one might blow over an empty soda bottle to create a musical note. The result is a beautiful and airy sound that can be heard playing some of the most handy melodies.
Andean musical instruments. The Andean highlands also had their own varieties of flutes and string instruments that include the following. Wooden tarka. The tarka is a vertical ducked flute with a mouthpiece similar to that of a recorder. It is used during the rainy season and in tribal ceremonies to mimic bird sounds. It sounds very primitive, soft, and mellow with a rasp in the low range. Siko. The siko or panpipe is originally from the Aymaras of Peru and Bolivia. It is traditionally found all across the Andes and is the main instrument used in a musical genre known as sikori. The pipes are made from bamboo shoots but have also been made from condor feathers, bone, and many other materials. Different types of bamboo are used to change the quality of the sound. Sungo or female bamboo produces a clear, strong, vibrant tone that is much better than regular deep-walled bamboo. In most cases, the siko is made to be roughly 2 octaves wide or 2 rows of pipes. The player must alternate rows with every note in order to play a complete scale. Quena. The quena is a vertical cane flute made from fragile bamboo. Thus, it is only used during the dry season. It has 6 fingers holes and 1 thumb hole. It is open on both ends or the bottom is half closed. Chirengo. The chirengo is a 10-stringed Andean guitar from Bolivia. It is the size of a ukulele and is a smaller version of the mandolin, imitating the early mandolin lute brought by the Spaniards. It produces bright sounds and is often used in serenades in southern Peru. Mariachi. The mariachi is an extremely popular band in Mexico whose originally ensemble consisted of violins, guitars, a harp, and an enormous guitarion, acoustic bass guitar. Trumpets later replaced the harp. Mariachi music is extremely passionate and romantic with its blended harmonies and catchy rhythms. Its musicians are distinctly dressed in wide-brimmed hats, jackets, and pants adorned with silver buttons. And that's the end of our video, and I hope you guys learned something.